All right. Hi, everybody. And thanks for being on the show, Pam. Pam Johnson Brickell is a illustrator, a nature journaler, and an art educator with a lot of cool classes and stuff like that. And most excitingly, I would love to talk to you about your Perpetual Journal.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, Marley. And hey, everyone. I must first say that I was inspired to keep a nature perpetual journal by Laura Gastinger up in Virginia, fabulous botanical artist. When I give a live workshop here, I am digging through 35 journals to see what the weather was. See
Wow,
if I can
wow.
get a handle on if it's going to be a good week to have a workshop or not. And I said, sheesh, perpetual journal, maybe this will help me out.
Well, maybe you could show us some pages from your Perpetual Journal and describe like the basic way of how it works.
Okay. Well, you need enough pages in your book to handle a week every week for the year and leave enough spaces so that the following year you can go back. So I chose this Sea White of Brighton, nice fat chunky journal. The paper is, they call it mixed media cartridge paper, and it can take a lot, but you can see through from page to page. So if I'm photographing something, I will stick a black sheet of paper in between and
Mm.
photograph, and it comes up clean. But basically, you lay it out. Every journal I've ever had, I put my name and phone number, even though this doesn't really leave the house. Um, and you set your my choice. I did a month. Okay, so I chose, and I'll show you a different month. I chose to put a block around the January, and I'd put lines. And I didn't at the time. I decided this design. I didn't know where that was going to go and how it was going to fit,
Mhm.
but I like a good adventure. So each month is broken down by a week. I allowed a spread. This is like a 10 by 10 book. So I've got a lot of room, and I dated. Now I've seen some perpetual journals where they just stamp the date. Fine. That works. It's been an interesting year last year. So February, you can start to see where that month box is starting to play into things.
Mhm.
And definitely one I did finish was I'm sorry, April. You can see it a little more where I'm building around that box.
Ooh.
Yeah, that would. April's a busy month. Right, here we go. I think July. Yeah, July is pretty much it's not going anywhere else. So basically, I'm hoping this will stand out on each monthly page.
Got it.
And
So let me see if I understand this then. You have a sort of title page for the month, and then after that you have a page or a spread for each week of that month. And
yes,
then every year you add to the same, so like you won't be adding more to the July page, the sort of July spread, but those individual week spreads afterwards, you'll add to those again this year when July comes around. Is that how it works?
correct. So last year for January, my entry was just this little swatch up here.
Okay.
Then this year I added. I've been trying to figure out a good way to keep track of the weather.
Mm-hmm.
So this year I'm doing these. Actually, started this later last year where I just did the weather report, and then I make notes of what's going on in the yard. A lot of this is turning out to be written,
Got
depending
it.
on what time I have to do things. So this is a better page that week in January. So
Mm-hmm.
last year it was this. This year it's all of that
Mm-hmm.
section, and so I could maybe get 2 or 3 more years, but
Got
because
it.
I know myself and I can get run on at the pen, so to speak. I left at
Mhm.
the end of each chapter, each month. Of course, the last days, I mean, there's only like 2 or 3 days tops, and so I'm gonna have a lot more room there. But I left myself another spread because
Got it.
I'm thinking better safe than sorry. I'd rather not have to stick in sheets of paper and have the binding get all messed up.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Cool. So I think that's a good explanation of basically how it works. And you mentioned I was going to ask you how you got started. It sounds like Laura Gastinger was the one that inspired you. Is there
Yeah.
any more story around how you got started? It sounds like last year was the first year you did it.
It is. And it took a long time because I chose to handwrite the dates. It took a long time for me to fill that. So I filled like 3 months at a time. And then any chance I got, I would continue dating the book. So I think it was July when I finished the actual handwritten dates.
Mm.
But so I would say be kind to yourself. It's your
Hmm.
journal. If you don't get it all dated, just date as you go. And it's I can't emphasize enough that it's your journal. So you decide what you want to keep track of. So my pet name for this whole journal is Flora Feathers and or Weather Feathers and Flora or something like that. I don't know. I haven't inked it in yet,
Hmm.
and I will. I'm planning to do something with the cover so that I can get it besides. And this is just white Posca marker. I don't know how I
Nice.
live without a white Posca marker. And the other thing I chose to do is everything's in ink right away.
Hmm.
I have a lot of white Posca marker in this book.
Uh-huh. Oh, you use it as a correction tool as
Oh
well?
yeah, absolutely. And the only thing you can't, if you hit it right away with some watercolor, you can work with it long as it's fluid. But when it dries, it's kind of like your last
Hmm.
stop to add white because you can ink over it, but watercolor doesn't work so well.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Okay, cool. So
go ahead.
let's talk about more. It sounds like you have some really great materials and supply tips, and so I'll definitely gonna pick your brain on that in a moment.
Okay.
You were also sharing some sort of ideas about how to get started. Do you have any other recommendations for people who want to start? I think a lot of people see Laura's stuff or other perpetual journals online, and then they get inspired and excited, but it might feel intimidating to get started. Do you have any tips for people who want to get started with a perpetual journal?
Oh yeah, just make it yours. It's You're going to see if you're not really practice much with sketching, just do words. A lot of mine are mostly words because I don't have time to draw. I'll give you an example. I did one little tiny tree thing, but it's a lot of words. Even if you keep
Hmm.
the written, it's after doing it for a whole year, just having notes of what birds are in the yard, what to expect for this. Like I'm already thumbing through saying, okay, when did he show up? Or when, when did that plant start to come up in the beds? Because I planted some new things last year, and I'm eager to see if we're going to follow the same sequence this year with the blooming. So whatever you can take and then sketch as you can, and you don't have to use a pen. That's just my crazy. I
Hmm.
love the ink adventure. It's
Me too.
terrifyingly freeing.
Uh-huh.
You're committed.
Yeah, I like that. Terrifyingly freeing. That's really
Yeah.
good. So, what do you think is a common misconception that beginners have about perpetual journals? Like, what is something that people who haven't done it um, believe or think that maybe is not really true?
I think they might get overwhelmed with having to make an entry every week. And that's where
Mm,
um, the written word comes in. As long as you're jotting something you see, it can be very simple. I mean, I've got pages with Post-it notes on it that I need to get to. So it's just don't be shy. Just
That's a really good tip. Like, I guess that's a misconception that I had, is I always assumed it was very artistic, and I didn't even think that you could. I never even thought of the possibility of doing a perpetual journal that was based mostly on note taking, but that totally makes sense.
So here's in November, totally just notes.
Mm-hmm.
Now I did try to so it's easier for me to read when I'm going back through. I did a different font for whatever I'm talking about, so that it'll be an eye-catching way for me to say, okay, yep, that's it.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
or you can even do it with markers, if you want something to stand out. And you'll pick up a pattern. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do with the weather, so I first started writing out what the weather started like. Here we are, October. I've got all those pictures to draw. I've got the rural landscape, all the different plants you see. October here in the Low Country is just phenomenal with color, and so I want my October spread to be beautiful. But yeah, right now we're working with Post-it note.
I love Post-it notes. Okay, cool. What do you think is the main benefit of, you've already hinted at some benefits, but what do you think is the main benefit of a perpetual journal compared to, other types of nature journaling?
Noticing the patterns in nature. In fact, this year, it's sending me on an extended journey. I am starting to research out quarter and cross quarter days, which this little book here, this Celestial Auspicious Occasions, it's not out of print, but you can get it on the used bookstore sites, or if you see it in a thrift store. A good read, a really good read. She goes through different cultures and their celebrations from way back to modern day. And like, we've got Groundhog Day coming up. That's a really old one. It's 6 weeks of winter or 6 weeks till spring left coming up. And I'm finding I'm delving down more because I'm walking around the yard more. I am seeing signs when I walk the dogs. I'm looking at the neighborhood trees and seeing signs. Like, we already have in a few spots, we have the swamp maples budding. And even just went through a deep freeze, our annual deep freeze, where some people will say, oh, that's nothing. But we got a wind chill of 15 degrees.
Wow.
South not to do that. but it was here. So, yeah, I was shocked that we still had plants are just growing.
Yeah.
In my newsletter going out this month, I'm starting to talk more about the really the patterns of nature, and I say that the Perpetual Journal and just keeping track of everything has really sparked an interest.
That's really cool. So what is the hardest part about doing, because that seems like a really huge benefit. A lot of people say that they're nature journaling to help themselves like learn more and notice more in nature. So it seems like a perpetual journal is a really powerful way to do that and to notice those bigger patterns, for example. So what do you think is the hardest part about doing it?
Having to stop to fix supper. There's nothing hard, actually. I mean, it was a task to date the pages, yes, but no, I thankfully have a very patient husband, and I have a birding scope set up in my dinette because our bird feeders are a bit away. And any kind of pause, if I have to wait for pasta to cook or something like that, I'm at that window. And I'm having a good time at that window.
Nice.
Watching the birds, squirrels, bunnies, you name it, and dang, supper gets in the way every time.
I can relate to that. So, and then do you just have your perpetual journal sitting there at that table next to your scope?
Yeah, it's a good thing we have a counter to eat at because the dinette table is just one big art supply. And I get asked
Nice.
often, can you make a bigger mess? I'm going, I can try.
That sounds really good. So maybe just describe a little bit, you're giving some hints at it here, but maybe about like your process. So say, what week are we right now? Or let's skip into the first week of February. So let's say, it's the first week of February. What's sort of like if you could summarize sort of your journaling, perpetual journaling process during that week. It sounds like that is your location there. Kind of walk us through a little bit of what that would look like um, for that first week of February in your perpetual journal.
All right. Well, February down here is when the pine pollen starts. So I will be notating, last year was like a banner year for pollen. I mean, everything turns yellow. The white cars are yellow. So
Hmm.
I will kind of note the date that I put the pollen in and see if
Hmm.
that's holding true. The spotted trillium
Mm.
is blooming, and I was getting worried. For February, I am being February 2nd is a cross quarter day. It's our
Hmm.
Groundhog Day.
Cool. So it sounds like for that first week of February, you're going to be doing walking around journaling in your garden or going to different places where you see those plants. So
Mhm.
you're not always doing your perpetual journal from that spot in your little dining area. Is that correct?
Um, I'll take the journal outside, or if I'm out
Mhm.
and about, have to run an errand or something, I will make note of what I see and take a picture with my phone. And
Mhm.
but mainly, most of this is my neighborhood related. So if someone doesn't get out a lot, there's still a whole lot to keep in your perpetual journal.
Mhm.
I particularly like living on the edge of wood lines because there is so much more nature activity that
Mhm.
way. But really, any walk you go on, if you have a favorite path to go on, you can just wherever you frequent, I would say, is a good place to start for keeping that. Um,
Cool.
the second week in February, our state flower, yellow jessamine, starts to bloom. So I've already noted
Mm.
that in my journal. And then the second week, also our resident pair of Canada geese have come back, but
Mm.
interestingly enough, they arrived 2 days ago. So I'll be noting
Mm.
that in our journal.
Cool. Great. I guess my next question is, how does this affect your other like nature journaling practices? Does this end up being like your only nature journaling practice, or do you like say there's something else happening and you want to fill more than just like that little piece in your perpetual journal, or maybe like there's something happening where you're afraid of taking your whole perpetual journal in case it like gets wet or something like that. Do you still do other types of journaling, or is like while you're doing a perpetual journal project, is that like your main nature journaling project?
No, not my main at all. I
Hmm.
was like 5 journals going on at once. Um, what I also keep is my backyard journal, and that one's not bound yet.
Mm.
And it's I've never worked on toned paper before, so last
Hmm.
July of 22, I started it, and took this wonderful week-long challenge with Allie Manning of Vintage Page Design. So if you're into wanting to make your own book,
Mm.
she is a fabulous educator. And
Mm.
so I have the directions on how to bind this, but because I
Hmm.
never worked with tone paper. I thought if I have to cheat, I will cheat. No, but I try not to throw any pages out, and so far it's good. But I've got what they call 3 signatures now. I've got a tan signature and working on this one, and I'm just bouncing back and forth. But I love watching. Again, I'm getting in trouble. We had a possum visit. So I have to write about that. And the birds in the backyard, when I see things on dog walks. And this is some more backyard. I guess this was a
cool map.
Storm, yeah. And then Bunny comes to visit. So yeah, I'm keeping track of the yard daily, and the crows are just so much fun to draw. The songbirds are really tough because they move real fast, and crows move real fast, but they're bigger, so it's easier for me to get a memory sketch of them. But then this was a day at the beach. We went down to the Hilton Head, and there were some great patterns on the sand.
Cool.
So I tried to do that, and squirrels and more crows. It's fun to study how the crows and the squirrels react to each other. The crows are very hesitant to tread on squirrel space.
Oh, interesting.
We've had then the bunnies. I mean, there's, everybody's jumping and like, get out of my face. So yeah, corn is very popular.
So you have a perpetual journal going. You have this backyard journal going, which is also like a book binding project. What other? You said you have 5 journals going on. What are some of the other journals you have going on at the same time?
The other journal I have one designated for just anything with water in it. So if you go to the beach or somewhere where there's a pond or anything, I bring that journal with me and I will make a water entry into it. The other one I have, we have an urban sketching group here that I organize, and I designate a journal just for the local sketches. And I have one that I will take. My husband plays golf a lot, and I have found that golf and I agree if I can just ride in the car and draw, it's a much better way. So I will sit in the cart and sketch around my way around the golf course. So.
And you have a journal just for that one?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I think I'm going to have to interview you. This could be really good because I call people. Are you familiar with the Harry Potter novels at all? So I don't. Maybe this isn't the case for your husband, but I call people who don't nature journal or sketch muggles, and I think it's really important to like talk to people about how they deal with the how they find a balance with like the muggles in their life, for example, because a lot of us have spouses or partners or family that are muggles, and so sometimes I think people sacrifice their journaling practice because maybe their partner wants to do something really fast paced in nature, so people think, oh, I can't journal when I'm with him because he just wants to mountain bike really quickly or something. So I think that's really cool that you have that solution of having your golfing journal that you do. So I might have to talk to you on another episode about different techniques that people use to find balance, like in their relationships. Because it sounds like you use space in your house as well for your journaling supplies. So it's always interesting to see how people manage that. So let's see, we've got a backyard journal, a water journal, urban sketching journal, and a golf journal, plus your perpetual journal. Is that the 5, or is there another one?
Yeah, I just remembered one more. I always keep a small 3x5 in my purse.
Okay.
And we go out to restaurants and I will sketch the meal. Now I've
Mhm.
slowed up a bit, but when I first started this is called Very Patient Husband. It's like, don't eat that. I have to sketch it. I'm serious. I mean, you become a very fast sketcher. So I would get it out in my Micron pen and I would just get the general shape. And then as we ate, I would add paint. And I'd have
Okay,
restaurant
that's
owners come up and to me and say, they normally just take photographs. That's like, what photo? This will get it down.
yeah. No, that's I love that,
So
and so it sounds like you have a small sketchbook that you carry with you everywhere, but one of the main things you do with it is sketching meals?
meals, or you're waiting for the doctor to be
Mhm.
called in. So there's a few waiting rooms in there too.
Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to do more of that too, just to make sure that I'm always, getting some sketching in. What type of sketchbook do you use for that really small one?
Stillman and Byrne, their Alpha series, a soft cover.
Mhm. Yeah, I
That's
like
my
those.
favorite.
And which do you remember which paper, is it did you say Alpha series?
Yeah,
Okay,
Alpha series. Yeah.
3 by 5 Alpha. Yeah, I like those ones too. And so, I guess my last question about this is, since you manage 6 different sketchbooks, could you just maybe share a little bit about your philosophy on this? Because this is something that I think is really important, and I've kind of gone back and forth about it. I've at certain times professed the idea like just have one sketchbook, do everything in that one sketchbook. And then other times I've experimented with having multiple sketchbooks. Could you just share like your philosophy on having multiple sketchbooks versus having just like one sketchbook, or just kind of that spectrum
Real world, yeah.
of options there are there?
I have done just the one journal. It's very cool to keep it with you. As I've aged, I'm not so organized.
Hmm.
And to remember one journal is more of a feat. I'd rather have several ready to go. That's
Hmm.
made it easier for me. I do love though keeping everything in one journal. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, when I was more working full time, it was more of a one stop shopping type thing
Hmm.
for your journal where everything is in there. Um, but in I say retirement, but I retired from working for somebody else. But retired, no,
Hmm.
there's no. When you're involved with the creative pursuits, it's
Hmm.
just too fun to stop. So it's not so.
Yeah.
If I can help others grab, because during the working world, it was on. I had time maybe at lunchtime
Hmm.
or any break, and I would make it a practice to do something in 10 minutes. Because if I
Hmm.
didn't, like 2 or 3 days went by and I didn't do some kind of journaling, I get kind of cranky. So
Hmm.
it's meditative, and it feels like a vacation, a mini vacation during the day when you just focus on
Yeah.
your drawing. So that's very very needed practice for me. It was everything stops. I'm getting my 10 to 15 minutes in. And it's amazing over the years. I mean, 2024 marks a special anniversary for me too. It's 50
Mm.
years of keeping a journal.
Whoa,
Whoa!
congratulations.
It's
That's
like that's
awesome.
kind of like a real weird feeling. And I mean, if my journal was a piece of furniture, it would be an antique, for goodness sakes.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, they but every every mark you make along the way, every experience you have, that comes out in your journal.
Mhm.
It's a wonderful, wonderful journey. And I had a dear, dear friend who is an architect and just would whip off buildings. Now, urban sketching,
Mhm.
I'm going for the plant because that's more
Yeah.
natural for me to draw. Buildings, it can take me a while, but we're getting there. But he would whack off a building, and I'd sit, And others would come up and say, how long did it take you to do that? And he goes, 82 years, 30 days, and 5 hours. It's like, and it's
Good
true.
answer. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love that answer.
It's all of your life it takes you. So if you're just starting, God, you got a great journey ahead. It's
Yeah, that's great. Love that. All right. So last question here about perpetual journaling. Well, we're going to talk about supplies a little bit and then do lightning round. But I wanted to know, like, do you teach perpetual journaling? Like, I know you do a bunch of teaching. Do
Mhm.
you teach perpetual journaling or have any content around that for people?
I haven't as yet. The first year was very experimental for me,
Hmm.
and now I'm gaining ground on it. So yeah, eventually, maybe next year.
Okay, cool.
We'll,
Well, tell us more about the teaching that you do. I know on your Instagram, I'll put the name of your Instagram up here right now so people can check you out on Instagram. But on your Instagram, it says something about nature, travel, garden, and everyday journals. Could you share a little bit about your teaching and how you approach all of those different types of journals?
yes, I focus heavily on sketching and that eye-hand coordination, and I'll add the
Hmm.
heart in there as well. My more recent posts, since I got I don't have it with me here, the Sailor Futy pen that has a little bent nib on it.
Mm. Yep.
The first time I picked that up, and I was drawing crows with it. No, it was a eastern towhee, which is really active bird. Um, it just felt like my heart was going right down the arm and right on the paper with that pen. It was just an amazing thing. It just the marks it makes by itself. It was
Hmm.
fabulous. Um, and and so I realized that yeah, I'm psyched. There's eye candy in front of me. My heart is all wrapped up in it, and it's traveling. And I'm
Hmm.
just sketching it out. And the so I teach that I love blind contour, modified blind contour. It's a simple way,
Hmm.
but it gets you to look at something. So
Hmm.
that's my focus, and then I will jump into page design and lettering and watercolor. A lot of folks think it's scary, but when you're journaling with it's not scary. You're not your sketchbook is your safe haven. It
Mhm.
you're learning, you're building. In fact, I think watercolor pencils help me be a better watercolor painter.
Hmm.
I used to do a lot of weaving, and I was combining colors to make, landscapes, and the weaving got me into the mixing of colors and the not mixing them physically, but laying them side by side,
Mm.
um, mingle, and then with the watercolor pencils and that water brush, the second best invention since post-it notes for me.
Mhm.
um, a better understanding of water to pigment ratio evolved,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
and also watercolor pencils. I used to be strictly a studio artist,
Mhm.
scared to death to take all that stuff outside and deal with the elements.
Mhm.
And we were living in Western New York on the Finger Lake, last Finger Lake there below Rochester. And we had a pontoon boat, and all of a sudden, those watercolor pencils made it out to the boat with me.
Mhm.
And, a month or two goes by, and I realize I'm working plein air. It's
Mhm.
kind of snuck up
Nice.
on me. So it made it a whole lot more accessible to be. Yeah,
Cool.
I'm outside. I'm doing this, and the other thing I love to do with journals is journal the same place over and over again for a landscape
Mm.
because you see it
Yeah.
all kinds of weather, and it's just a beautiful way to keep track. So yeah,
Nice.
so basically the sketching will teach you everything, the quickness, doing speed sketching, learning shapes, and just trusting your marks. That's what I focus on.
Cool. And then I'm gonna put up this link tree. I'll put the actual link in the comments below, but in case people want to, it's pretty short to type. And if people follow this, then they can see your teaching style because you have a free, don't you have a free tutorial on there?
Yes, for page design. Yeah, it's a good one. You
Cool.
get
So
sign up
if you,
for that, and you will
Mhm.
get a copy of my monthly newsletter, which is packed with bunches of tips as well.
Cool, great. Okay, we started going there a little bit, and I'm gonna have some follow-up questions from some of what you mentioned, but let's talk about supplies. First of all, what supplies are good for perpetual journals? Let's go there. Maybe starting off with the sketchbook. You mentioned a little bit about the sketchbook that you use, but could you just describe, what supplies are good for perpetual journals in your opinion?
I think a lot depends on your paper. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if everybody would want to just go for it with ink, but I mean, you can.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the Posca pens are wonderful for correcting.
Mhm,
I have to say that creating art, knowing how to fix things is huge. And
mm,
I think I've mastered it. Like, oh God, what do I do? Yeah, I've learned how to fix very well. So it's because when you paint with acrylics or oils, I mean, you just paint over it or scrape it off,
yeah,
depending on oil or acrylic. So with watercolor, yeah, there are ways. And it would depend a lot on your paper. It
uh-huh,
really does. I find with this cartridge paper, colored pencils work well.
mhm,
Um, very light watercolor, so we're not getting into
mhm,
huge. And it's kind of one and done paper too. You make your stroke, and that's your stroke. You just
mhm,
go away, leave it
mhm,
alone, or let it totally dry and then do something. Um, and then I, I love hardbound or
mhm,
something of this substance that's going to have to be used over and over and over again. I would say definitely go hard versus or a thick hard covered spiral um,
mhm,
it's still hardbound. You have spiral, so that would work.
mhm.
Just get some paper that is friendly to you and you've worked with before.
Yeah, okay, so the paper choice is central, and what was the name? Could you just mention? Because sometimes people wanna know the exact supply that someone is
Yeah,
using.
Sea White of Brighton. It's a European company.
How do you spell C white?
SEA and then white. That's all one word.
SEA, like the ocean, okay,
Yeah.
C white of Brighton.
hmm
And what's the size or the format
Uh,
on it?
this is approximately 10 by 10.
Oh, it's a square.
Yeah.
Cool.
I found it on Amazon.
Mhm. See White of Brighton, 10 by 10, and it's how many pages are in it? Because the number of pages is critical too for the perpetual journal, right?
There's a lot. I got one of their 9 by 12s and it was half the size.
Mm, mhm.
So make sure, they have, I think all their fat boys here are square in size.
They're called Fat Boys?
Oh no, that's
Okay.
oh I know. That's just me. They uh, I can't I know
It
it
doesn't
the 9 by 12s were a lot thinner, so just make sure
okay.
of the page because I don't think the thinner ones would work
So
unless
you
you just use
need
one page per.
so you need over 100 because if what is it? There's 52 weeks in a year and you need 2 pages per week, or maybe some people would do 1 page per
Yeah,
week in a
yeah,
perpetual
it
journal.
depends. If you're just starting out and you're not sure what you're going to write or do or anything, one page instead of a spread might work better for you.
So you could potentially do a perpetual journal in a sketchbook that has 100 pages.
Yeah, yeah.
You just have to figure out
You may
to
not have a monthly spread like I do,
right.
um,
Yep. Okay.
but you could do something with fancy lettering or markers or something to designate each month.
Cool. So you mentioned the Fude Demonin, which I have mine right here. I love those as well. Um, and I love them
Yeah.
also. But what are some of the other like main, what are the main, you said you use ink in this perpetual journal. What are the main ink tools that you use?
This is a cut down platinum carbon fountain pen, desk pen.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really, it's plastic. So when I cut it down, of course, it got all craggy, but these are the ends that go on wire racks, closet racks.
Whoa.
And it just happened to fit nicely. So this one will fit in my pencil case, and actually that white thing helps the cover stay on nicely as well. So
So it's a sawed off platinum carbon. What's the name of that fountain pen?
platinum carbon
Okay,
fountain
because
pen.
the ink is called platinum carbon as well, right?
Yeah, yep, yep. It
Okay.
just says platinum. The main name is platinum, and then on the little type is carbon ink pen.
Okay,
I
cool.
use that ink too in the Feudy.
Me too.
But yeah, this is
Um,
my
okay.
go-to.
That's your main drawing tool.
Hmm. Now I am drawing. Sometimes I'll use pencil if I'm doing a songbird and I'm having to draw it. I'll mainly work from a photograph
Mhm.
because I'll catch it like in flight to the feeder, or I had the one where the hummingbird is, and I really liked the way the if I'd put ink on that hummingbird, I don't think it would have
No,
been
yeah.
so fluid. So I
Yeah, that's hard with the wings.
yeah,
Wow.
so so it's a little bit tiny bit of pencil, and where I have the lettering where it's darkened in here, I used
Yeah.
the Faber-Castell, I think it's dark sepia. And I just I like Versa lettering because you can do so much to it. Um,
Hmm.
you have that channel. I mean, you could put polka
Mhm.
dots in there if you want, but I just
Mhm.
put the colored pencil in to darken it up.
Great. So what are the so you said Faber-Castell, is that just the not their watercolor ones, just the regular?
Yeah, the polychromos. Yeah,
Okay, so you use Faber-Castell Polychromos. And then what watercolor pencils? You said you were saying you like the watercolor pencils a lot too?
yeah. I started with Derwent,
Mm-hmm.
and just I love the Faber Castell watercolor pencils. They're very
Mm-hmm.
buttery.
Mm-hmm.
But just I tried Michael's brand and got very uh, frustrated with them. Not a lot of pigment came
Mm,
from them, so I would I would go for the best pencil that you can afford, and no more than 12 colors. You could get away with three colors
oh,
actually.
okay. No
I'm
more
very
than
big on
12 colors.
yeah. You don't. I always, when I'm teaching the watercolor pencil technique, I don't really like you to use the greens that come with them. I'd rather have you mix them. So,
Yeah. I greens are my pet peeve. A lot of times I don't teach color, or I tell people not to bring color. I don't put colors on the supply list, especially for like intro classes, because green is the worst. Like as soon as people see a plant, they just take the green from the box and then they start coloring in the plant. And it's like, what color is the plant? And if you actually go over and look at it, sometimes it's like purple or something. And we're
yeah.
coloring it with like this terrible primary green. Okay, cool. Well, I think that will help people a lot with, do you have any other sort of like special things that you can't live without in your art supplies and your, whether it's for perpetual journaling or for other journaling?
The Posca white marker.
Okay.
That's a must. And they come in different sizes. Yay.
I like how could you just show the cover of your journal too? I think that's really cool the way you decorate the cover.
Yeah.
Wow. And so is that your signature there?
Yep, that's my little, that's how I sign things.
Nice. And then
And
you write on the spine as well.
I did. I did.
Cool. That's
So
so
that's
cool.
what the biggest Poscamo. Well, no, I think it's the bullet tip, big bullet tip.
Okay. Great.
But
Well, are you ready for the lightning round?
sure, hit me.
Okay. Well, first, can you make a lightning sound?
We are in the lightning capital of the world.
Oh, all
And got
right.
struck this summer. That's been interesting.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully that won't happen while we're in the lightning round. There was actually a lightning round with Roseanne Hanson, and her electricity went out because there was lightning.
Oh
So
my God.
Um, yeah. Okay, cool. So try to answer these questions without thinking too much. And the first ones are sort of yes or no, but like basically the first thing that comes to your mind. So these first ones are yes or no. Is coffee an essential art supply?
No, water.
Okay. Organized or messy?
A little of both.
Okay. Do you like to journal alone or with other people?
Both, I think. I like urban sketching, but then we still go off in our own little ways. I can't always talk when I'm drawing.
Hmm.
So there's, if you feel comfortable sitting in silence, there you go. And even even when I do
Great.
my lives on Instagram, it's like there's this big pause. It's like, yeah, I can't talk and draw at the
Yeah,
same time.
I know the feeling. Does your family understand your art?
Absolutely.
Snacks or no snacks?
Oh yeah, chocolate. Dark
Ooh, yay. Me too. Are you a perfectionist?
um I can be picky. Perfectionist, I will always try to do my best I can, but some days are better than others. How about that?
Okay, sounds like you're not a perfectionist. Plants or animals?
Both. But I guess plants. Plants would be a little for drawing. Yeah,
Okay. Ink or graphite?
ink.
Do you ever put art supplies in your mouth?
Yeah, in the water. Coffee. Yeah, yeah. I have this
Um,
little on my studio desk. I have this little hand woven mat for the beverage of choice at that time,
uh-huh.
and it's way, way.
Good, good. Big picture or micro?
Mm. I like to include some micro in a big picture journal. Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
ooh, okay. Would you rather nature journal on Mars or in the deep sea?
Oh, I yuck. I'm thinking water. But I do. Well, depends on location. I would say deep sea.
Okay. Fast or slow?
Uh, Steady as she goes, slow.
Okay. And then the last of these ones is what face do you make when someone walks up to you and says, "You are so talented, I could never do that"?
Oh, and then they get the lecture of how they can.
Nice. Okay, a couple more of the lightning round questions here. If you could have a nature journaling superpower, what superpower would you want to have?
Oh, I would say a little more
Mm-hmm.
vision capabilities, so that you're seeing
Mm-hmm.
it far away, and then you've memorized it in the guidebook, so you know it's there,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't see it. But I would say a little more
So
vision.
maybe like eagle vision or bionic vision or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay, great. If you could nature journal with any historical figure, who would you want to go exploring and sketching with?
Too many to mention. Edith Holden, I think.
Hmm,
She was a
great.
I'd love to you read her, book, and you can just be with her on the lane where she's walking. I would love to see that.
Hmm. Okay, final question for the lightning round is if you were stuck on a tropical island and all your survival needs were taken care of, what five art supplies would you bring to the desert island?
Big fat journal.
Okay,
Um, okay, big fat journal, pen, watercolor, Posca marker, and a brush.
great. That
Yeah.
was easy for you. All right, good job. You survived the lightning round. Yay.
Yay.
Great. Okay, so just a couple closing questions here. It sounded like and maybe you could answer in terms of nature journaling in general, but you were saying that the perpetual journal helps you notice patterns in nature. Um, I guess what I'm asking is if you think that the perpetual journal is there like a bigger role that it could play, or can it be used in more ways besides just like, for example, me getting to know my garden better?
I see it as, it takes on a life of its own, and it will,
Hmm.
I think, lead you in other areas. So totally beneficial. It'll lead you in other design choices, how you
Hmm.
want to journal, how you approach it, what you want to keep track of. I mean, even though I have a broad guide for mine, it's taking on a new shape.
Got
So
it. What do you think is the future of nature journaling?
I have great hope, with everything that I see online, that it's going to, um, we artists are going to save the world. How about that?
Hmm.
um, I was at a meeting where they were just, the fishing game wildlife here is, we have a preserve that's just run by volunteers, very
Hmm.
dedicated volunteers, and they're worried that that dedication will go away. And I said, yeah, but there is a grassroots movement afoot of nature journalers, and I think we're preparing the next generation to care about it. And I think it's important to keep kids involved and let them know there's something besides, fingers on a keyboard.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
I think it's cathartic, it's inspirational, and it will. If you draw it, you're going to love it, and love is a secret ingredient to most everything. So it'll draw them a lot more caring for our environment.
Great. Okay, final question is what is your dream project? Like if you could do anything, maybe it's something you already have planned, or maybe it's like a crazy dream. What would be your ultimate dream project for you?
For me, I would love to, if my husband wasn't claustrophobic, I would love to just go off in a van and just stop and paint.
Mm,
Always wanted to do that. Goes,
mm,
no, I don't have any space. It's like, so as patient as he is claustrophobic.
mhm,
So yeah, I would just love to sketch everything. His folks were in, Western New York. Mine were in Tucson, and we'd take road trips because we always had animals we'd had to bring with us. And I said,
Mhm.
yeah, but let's stop over there. Like, no. Driving. So yeah, there's a lot of places I would like to sketch.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for making time to be on the show, and I'm gonna put up your link tree here again, for people to check out, your teaching style. Yeah, thanks so much for making the time to be on the show, and I can't wait to see what your perpetual journal looks like in a few years.
Oh, me too. And well, yeah, I wanted like the year to rush by, and I'm going, wait a minute, time goes by too quickly. So
That's
I've learned to
funny.
become patient and not worry about page design. It's just throw it in there. It'll all work
Great.
out.
Cool. Cool. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank
All right,
you.
everybody at home, bye.